Welcome to the Ignition News. We love to have you here, but remember to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Click that like button, that subscribe button, and leave a comment below. It's going to be a great show. Welcome to the Ignition News. Let's get busy with the truth. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. It is that time. We're on our new schedule now. We're taking the weekends off. We don't do the show live on the weekends, but it is posted. We do have episodes up for you to check out. There's 2 really great episodes that I would encourage you to to go and check out. So welcome to the Ignition News. We are your amygdala hijack-free source of the truth. And we don't just tell you the news. We give you actionable steps about what you can do to actually go out and protect and preserve your democracy. It's great to have you. I want to let you know that we're going to be bringing on some guests as well very soon. We've got some guests lined up for the show. It is getting to be primary election season, both in Nevada and all over the country. And I want you to meet some people who are running for office, not because I'm not going to endorse those people, but I think one of the things people want to always ask me is like, well, what is it like to run for office? And, when you talk to a politician who's been a politician for 30 years, it's kind of on autopilot, and they've got their APAC money coming in, and they've got their ads and their little party meetings and all that stuff. Those people don't know shit about running for office. They literally don't. Those people have no idea. Like, they don't do the mechanisms. They don't understand the brute force, the paperwork, any of that shit. They don't touch any of that shit. So I want you to meet actual citizen candidates. Let me zoom out a little bit. I have something called the citizen candidate theory. I actually wrote a book about this. It's called Citizen Candidate. Long story. We'll talk about that another day. But my citizen candidate theory is simple. I believe we should sort of take thousands of people, millions actually, but let's just say hundreds of thousands of people, and we should throw them at the system by running for office. Every day, men and women, postal workers, teachers, doctors, educators, DoorDash drivers, and we should just throw them at the system. And if we throw 10,000 of them at the system, well, maybe 1 or 2 of them is going to get elected to Congress, but then we just keep going. 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 I'll talk more about the citizen candidate theory in the future. But I just wanted to let you know that we've got some kind of like what I would call underdogs. And I want you to be able to see, people talk about various versions of what it means to be patriotic, what it means to be a real American. But I was actually watching someone on TikTok the other day, and it was someone who's running for office here in Nevada. And they're just, sitting in their car trying to talk to voters, trying to get people to know about them. And I was like, damn, that is really heroic. And I think more people need to know about not only those people, but I think a lot of you might also be thinking to yourself, I want to run for Congress, or I want to run for the school board, or I want to run for the HOA president. I want to do those things. And I think people are afraid of it. And when you hear people actually do it, it breaks down that fear. Nonetheless, welcome to the Ignition News. It is March 23rd. It is 3/23/2026. I'm sure there's some math there, some numbers. Remember that movie? Was it 23? Was that the movie 23 with Jim Carrey? Great movie. Somebody help me out. Was it 23? I'm going to feel really embarrassed if it wasn't. Here's some things that happened today. In 1775, yes, thank you. In 1775, this was the date of the Liberty or Death speech, Patrick Henry's very famous speech to the Second Virginia Convention. This was a pivotal moment in American history, and it was a moment of rhetorical dissent against British colonial rule. So whether that's you at an O Kings event or a city council meeting, or whether that's you getting elected to run your local, HOA, whatever you want to say, I wonder, did Patrick Henry know when he delivered the Liberty or Death speech, did he know that would be a pivotal moment in American history, or was he just trying to do something really good? We don't know, but we know it happened. Oh, big day as well. This is pretty serious, actually. In 1933, the Enabling Act was passed. The German Reichstag passed, I'm not going to try to say that. Let me give it a shot. Ermächtigungsgesetz. Yeah, I did it. I did pretty good. I did pretty good. Ermachtengungeschätzt. Yeah, twice in a row. Effectively dismantling the Weimar Republic's legislative oversight. This allowed Adolf Hitler to enact laws without parliamentary consent, and it is the historical case study in the rapid consolidation of dictatorial power. The Enabling Act was very effective in taking away people's liberties of speech. It started what was eventually the true German citizen. One of the ways that they were able to put people in concentration camps, or that they were able to deport the Jews to the concentration camps, is they started having like actual citizenship tests, bloodline, birthright, all these kinds of things. And if you don't think we're far off from that here in the United States, let me tell you. Good morning. Let's see. Let's say happy birthday. I don't know a lot of these people. Shaka Khan, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Shaka Khan. Kyle Irving, the basketball player, happy birthday. It is World Meteorological Day. It is also Autism Acceptance Week. It is it's Near Miss Day. It's Near Miss Day, the 1989 occasion when a massive asteroid narrowly missed Earth. Well, I don't know. Are we better off? It's hard to say. But yes, it is Autism Acceptance Week. Easy to say when someone is a savant and they are doing their special skill, and they're clocking, political history without looking at a map or without looking at a book. Easy to say. But when someone is autistic and they're in the middle of an airport having a meltdown because they're overstimulated, well, a lot less accepting than I find, right? So, my neurodivergent brothers and sisters, I want you to know that you are, in fact, seen. I see you, we hear you, and we love you. Good morning. Let's get right into the stories. The first one I'm going to talk about actually happened this weekend, but I wanted to bring it up because it is pretty significant. And I want to close the loop on something because I think it reflects what happens to the men in this country who have become cowards. And I said this in a different format, a different forum, but the thing I would say is one of the things that amazes me about what's happened in this country right now is the sheer emasculation of men in this country. So many men who claim to be masculine, powerful, who claim to be leaders, who claim to be the archetype of masculinity, who claim to be these tough, strong men, they are just constantly emasculated. They are constantly emasculated in service of this president. They just constantly go to the fountain on their hands and their knees, these sycophantic, weak little men. And I think it really breaks open and cracks open this whole idea of the patriarchy. This whole idea of the powerful women can't run for office. Women can't be politicians because they can't handle it. They can't handle the pressure and the stress. There's not a single man in our government body right now, in Congress or the Senate. I can't think of one. I mean, Bernie Sanders, he would be one. But there's not a single man in our political infrastructure, whether that's on the state level or the congressional level, that is really willing to take a stand against this administration, but especially Republicans. All of these men with their little blogospheres, manospheres, buy my protein powder, they have all been emasculated. They are the most sycophantic that I've ever seen. It's insane. They seemingly love to be dominated by old white men. They seem to really enjoy it. And it is disappointing. It is disappointing. But let me show you and talk about why I think that is an important historical anecdote. And I want to talk about Robert Mueller. Former FBI Director Robert Mueller passed on Friday night at the age of 81 years old. His family said he passed peacefully, and they asked for privacy. That is, of course, the kind of dignity that you should expect from anyone who was a decorated, dedicated public servant. The president, of course, had different things to say. This is what the president said about Robert Mueller. He said, "Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people." Interesting. Let's be clear about who Robert Mueller was. He was a Princeton-educated Marine who went to Vietnam when the president was avoiding it with his bone spurs. Mueller earned a Bronze Star. He earned the Purple Heart. He served under 4 presidents, split evenly between Republicans and Democrats. He was FBI director on September 11th and went on to become the second longest serving director in the agency's history. Now, of course, Robert Mueller was the person who led the Russiagate oversight investigation into the president, yada, yada, yada. And the thing I would tell you about Robert Mueller and the mistake that he made, was he chose the dignified sort of, what's the word I would use? He chose the norms. He chose political norms in a time of the fracture of the American Republic. He decided not to actively push for a prosecution of the president, in spite of the fact that he was very clear that sufficient evidence existed to prosecute the then sitting president, Donald Trump. He testified as such to Congress. He testified directly that the president likely committed crimes, that there likely was some type of collusion. Now, I will just say, I do think that the Democratic Party overhyped the Russiagate situation because I think what they did is they focused on Russia, Russia, Russia. I do think that was a mistake because what they should have been doing was crafting effective policy. What they should have been doing is crafting effective messaging, platforming, getting in touch with voters. But instead, they spent all this time on Russia, 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 hoping that Robert Mueller himself would actually go to the table and hold the president accountable. But after all of his service, his dedicated service, Robert Mueller made the fantastic mistake of believing that this president had the same kind of dignified respect for the American Constitution, public service, and the American people that Robert Mueller himself had. And so he didn't prosecute the president. He didn't speak out when he had the opportunity to speak out loudly about the president. And he did not do enough to hold the president accountable, not just for what he did with the Russia situation, but also pressuring James Comey, obstruction of justice, all these. He chose the path of the norms because he thought he was being a good American. He thought he was being a good American. And then when he died, this president completely besmirched, discredited, and destroyed his reputation on his literal deathbed. All of his service, all of his legacy, all of the moments, the days, the weeks, all of those years, those decades of service broken down into 1 hour at a time, 40 hours at a time, weeks and weeks and months and years at a time. All of them were erased by a tweet from the president. All of his legacy, all of his time, what Robert Mueller will be remembered for was the president's horrible Truth Social tweet about him. And that is what it cost Robert Mueller to not stand up to the president. It cost him his entire career, his legacy. It was tarnished. And let me just say, I know some of you don't think that the office of the president means something, but I do, and history does, and history will. And the fact of the matter is, for all of Robert Mueller's public service, his entire reputation, his entire life body of work was flushed down the toilet on the day of his death. Hopefully, more men in this country begin to wake up and understand that we are not living in a time of norms. We're living in a fundamentally different time that requires fundamentally different action, that requires fundamentally stronger men. And what I've said before, and what I will say again, when I am on the streets, or when I am out resisting, or when I am out building community, it is constantly strong, intelligent, powerful, fearless women who are on the streets. Go to any protest, go to any community organizing group. The people leading and building community are largely women because the men are afraid. These big, masculine men. It's disgusting. And it has consequences. Welcome to the Ignition News, everyone. It's good to have you here. I do need to ask you, I saw a bunch of people follow the show over the weekend. Thank you very much. We didn't do the live show, so it's just a reminder. I know if you like watching the live show, I love that you're here, but do go follow us on Spotify because we do now post episodes that are not recorded live. So I do appreciate when you go follow the show there. And we're building up. I need you to follow the show because it's expensive. And let's get those advertisers to pay for the Ignition News. Okay. All right. It's pricey. I gotta screw in my tire this weekend. Okay. Go follow the show on Spotify. I would appreciate it. All of this has consequences, of course. I don't know if you actually saw this, by the way. But there was actually a plane crash at LaGuardia. So let's get into the next story. On Sunday night, an Air Canada Express regional jet struck an airport fire truck on the runway at LaGuardia in New York. This happened at about 11:40 p.m. as the aircraft was landing on runway 4, arriving from Montreal. So there was a plane crash on the runway. I think people are kind of missing what this was because of the fact that a plane hit a fire truck. What a wild thing that happened. Both pilots, the captain and the first officer, were unfortunately killed. 41 people were on the plane, were taken to the hospital. We know right now that 32 of those people have been released. The preliminary tracking data shows us that the aircraft was traveling at about 104 miles per hour when it hit the Port Authority firefighting vehicle. That truck had been responding to a separate incident on the field. Here's what one passenger said from inside the cabin. They came in hard and immediately hit something, and then chaos broke out. LaGuardia's control tower has actually been in the news because it has been one of these control towers that has been overwhelmed with the government shutdown. We've had major problems with controllers having to work overtime, and they're obviously drawing a lot of parallels. Do you remember this midair collision that happened in January, almost immediately after the president was inaugurated? These people are working 6-day work weeks. Sometimes they're working 10-hour shifts. The mismanagement of this government is literally getting people killed. I mean, you already know that. But someone asked earlier on the show today, they were saying, I'm going to Denver. I'm flying to Denver out of Harry Reid International Airport. Do you think I should be worried? And my answer is, I don't think you should be flying right now. In addition to the fact that we'll get to that in a second, but the FAA is being run by the same administration that is running this disastrous war in Iran. I think you want to trick yourself to believe that because the FAA has been around a long time, because air travel has been around a long time in the United States, like it's not as impacted. But the military's been around a long time too. Command and control in the military has been around as long as the military has been around. And look at what is happening. Look at how quickly the rot has infested this country, how quickly the rot has infested command and control. No one could speak up to the president and say, hey, if we invade Iran, they're probably going to shut down the Straits of Hormuz. Probably going to cost us a lot of money. It's not just air traffic control, it's the TSA as well. Here's something that's pretty wild. So the partial government shutdown's been running since February 14th. It's 5 weeks of a shutdown. 50,000 frontline airport security workers across 430 commercial airports have been required to show up to work without a paycheck. Now we know that 400 of those TSA workers have quit. Almost half of these resigned had more than 3 years of experience. A third of those people had 5 years plus of experience. So we're not talking about like part-timers, entry-level people who just joined the TSA. We're talking about some of the more experienced people responsible for keeping you safe at the airport. They're quitting because they haven't had a paycheck, because the government's been shut down, at least partially shut down, for 5 weeks. So now lines are starting to happen at the airport. You're starting to see the chaos unfold. We have a plane crash that's happened at LaGuardia. So what is the president's solution? The president is sending ICE to at least 14 airports that we know about, with more on the way. So far, we have Atlanta, JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, Philadelphia, Houston. All blue cities. All blue cities getting ICE at the airports. ICE agents are not trained transportation officials. They are not trained for airport security protocol. Their presence at airports is, whether you would want to call this or not, a purely political statement. So now, in addition to terrorizing our streets, they are ineffectively patrolling and now terrorizing our airports. There's already been footage of ICE agents going buck wild at SFO, San Francisco, arresting and violently detaining someone, causing chaos. The president says they're not supposed to have masks on at the airport, but every video I've seen of ICE agents at the airport, they've got their fucking masks on. We have masked men at airports now. This is the kind of thing that you see in a third world country. In fact, I have traveled to third world countries where the people at the airport are in uniforms with masks, and I did not feel safe. And I'm guessing if you're flying, you're not going to feel safe knowing that ICE is there. Immigration, customs, and enforcement at American airports because the TSA is not funded. Sandy says, this is a disaster. I'm expecting man pretends to be ICE at airport. I don't see why you wouldn't. So who is going to come and save us? The Supreme Court? Are they going to put an end to this madness? I don't think so. Let me get into the last story today. The Supreme Court is hearing a crucial case right now. They have actually begun to hear oral arguments in a massive case that could very much impact how voting goes in November. Good luck to TikTok. I hope we stay on board. So the case that they're hearing is Watson versus the RNC. It's a Mississippi law that allows mail-in ballots to be counted if they arrive up to 5 days after Election Day, if they are postmarked on Election Day. This is the way it works in my state as well, by the way. The RNC, backed by the Trump administration, argues that federal law requires ballots to be physically received on Election Day itself. The stakes here are significant. So you have nearly 1 in 3 Americans, about 48 million people, casting mail-in ballots in 2024. This ruling against Mississippi would invalidate grace periods in 14 states and Washington, D.C., and could affect rules in 17 other states. And it is looking like the Supreme Court is, in fact, going to go this way. In today's oral arguments, conservative justices appeared skeptical of the grace period. Justice Alito raised concerns about election confidence. The court's liberal justices, of course, pushed back. But you have to remember this is a 6-3 Supreme Court. And of course, here's the fact that got very little attention today. Mississippi's Solicitor General pointed out that not one documented case of fraud involved late arriving mail ballots. Not one. There has never been a prosecuted case of any kind of fraud for ballots that were postmarked on Election Day, but then received up to 5 days after. Let us also not forget that Trump's Postmaster, Louis DeJoy, has aggressively been dismantling the post office, making it slower, making it less functional, changing routes, changing rules. There was also this thing we covered before where what's it called? The postmark. The postmark is not received. I think until it actually, I forget this, but it was like until it actually leaves now. So if you want the postmark to reflect the date that you arrived, you have to go in the post office and you have to get the postmark from someone at the desk in order for the postmark to be of that day. A lot of people vote by mail. And then again, of course, this asks a whole other question. If you think this is just about mail-in voting, it's not. It's the systemic dismantling of all of those things. Because if they go out mail-in voting and they say, oh, well, it's postmarked, but it didn't get there 5 days later, what happens to people who had no control over that? What if you put your ballot in the mail 2 weeks before Election Day? And 2 weeks before Election Day, something happens. It gets put in some, bin somewhere. They find it later. So does that mean that you did everything right and your vote shouldn't count? Even though the postmark said 2 weeks before the Election Day? And who does this actually harm, by the way? Who does this harm? Ballots postmarked on Election Day. Well, let me tell you who it harms. It harms people like you and me. People who can't afford to take off a whole day to go and vote. People who say, oh, I have to work a 12-hour shift today, but I need to get my ballot in. So I'm going to, on my way into work today, on my way into the warehouse, I'm going to drop my ballot off in the post office box because I can't go stand in line for 5 hours because I have to be at work. It affects people who are disabled, who may not be able to get up and go to the post office, or I'm sorry, who may not be able to get up and go stand in line, or who need special assistance, who from the comfort of their home can get the kind of assistance necessary to fill out a ballot, put it in the envelope, and put it in the mail. Obviously, it affects poor people. I said working people too, but people who don't work, who are not able to drive to the fucking ballot box. When we allow them to go after one thing, when we allow them to take away one thing, they will just keep taking away and taking away and taking away. So then what's next? We just saw in Texas, Tallarico v. Crockett, there were people who were standing in line before the polls closed. There were people who were directed to the wrong polling location because they changed the law. So they were standing in line. Oh, polls have closed. Those people voted provisional ballots after the close of the election. That's an open matter. Are their votes going to count? Are they not going to count? And that's the thing. The Democrats are sleeping on this. The Republicans are going full. They've got every train running. They've got every steam car running. They've got every ship, every plane. Every plane of election interference is full speed right now. They're going at it from every single angle. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer is just, we expect to have free and fair elections. I'm going to send the president a letter about this. And what was I talking about? That's the Democratic resistance right now. We can't depend on Chuck. We can't depend on Hakeem. So we have to depend on you. It's good to be back, everyone. I missed you this weekend, but it was nice to get a little bit of a break. How do these four stories tie together? Well, a government that cheers on the death of a man who tried to hold the president accountable, or a country whose airports are stretched to the max, an administration that forces people to go to work without pay and then sends very well paid ICE agents in their place, and a Supreme Court that might dismantle access to voting for millions of people. This is the deliberate degradation of the American democratic experiment. And it all goes back to working people who are missing their flights because Congress can't figure out a way to fund TSA, working people who may not be able to vote, working people who are working for you, for the government, who are not being paid. They're working at the TSA 8-10 hours a day, and then they're going out and doing DoorDash just to keep the lights on. This is supposed to be the greatest country on earth. What are we doing? The last line of defense, this election coming up, we've got the Supreme Court actively dismantling people's ability to vote. But the thing is, the action call is, the idea is, the philosophy is simple. These things only work if we allow them to. This pushback only works if we stay silent. This hostile takeover of the voting architecture only works if we allow it to work. If they are going to make it harder for us to vote, then we have to vote harder. If they're going to make it harder for us to vote, we are going to vote harder. We are going to be vigilant. We are going to educate our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, our brothers, sisters, uncles, people at the grocery store, people at the post office. Causing radical change requires you to be radical. It requires you to have courage in places where you normally might not have courage. And that means, for example, next time you go to the post office, speaking up, annoying a stranger about the fact that they are trying to dismantle mail-in voting, informing and educating 5 people. If 5,000 of you educate 5 people, that's 25,000 people. That is more than enough to change the results of almost any election in the country. But you have to be willing to do that work. You can't wait for someone to come and save us. You have to do it now. So whether that is ensuring by every fucking right that your vote is counted, and then finding 1 person, 2 person, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, and ensuring under your own courage, God, morality, whatever that is, that you, by the name of God or by the name of yourself or by the name of the universe, you're going to fucking make sure those 5 people vote. 5 is low numbers, by the way. You can do much better than that. That kind of vigilance, that is radical. In a time like this, when Robert Mueller is dead and the president destroyed his entire reputation, you being a radical protector of your neighbor's vote is courage, and it is very radical. In an age where all of these men have put their heads down, you refusing to do that and then actively preventing it, that is liberation. That is democracy. That is why they will fail. You can't say that you didn't have the game plan. You can't say that you were not informed because you watched the Ignition News. We have had 1,000 small victories, 1,000 leaders in 1,000 different communities. We're building more and more and more. We have a brilliant community of people who care about their community, and we are waking up one more person every day, two more people, three more people. We are a thunderstorm of change, but only if we believe that. And so when you think about what is coming at us, whether that is the election or what is left of this presidential administration, and you see, you feel, you know how in the rain, it's about to rain and you can feel it in the air? That's you. That's you now in this country now, at this perilous moment. You are the storm. That's the show, everybody. It's been great to be back. I missed you. You are the storm. This has been today's episode of The Ignition News. Please consider following us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Substack. We're here to deliver to you unfiltered, uncensored news. Let's get busy with the truth on The Ignition News.